I thought it would be interesting to kind of have a chat to the guys here from the show floor who have been developing for Switch. They've got their games here on Switch. To kind of have a chat about how that experience has been, how they see the platform developing, and any kind of advice that they can maybe offer to anybody else who's looking at developing for the platform. So to begin with, I'd just like to ask everybody to just introduce themselves and say and their game, just so we know who you are.
Hi, I'm Sean from The Dangerous Kitchen, and the game we're making is called Demumbo.
I'm Julius from Image Informed Games. We're here with SteamWorld Dig 2 for Switch.
I'm Ollie from Ghost Town Games, developers of Overcooked, and I'm the coder.
My name is Kevin. We're making Flipping Death for the Switch.
I'm Phil, and I'm also with Ghost Town Games making Overcooked.
Cool. And
Right.
Well, I guess the first question would be, how did you end up on Switch? Did Miyamoto phone you up one day, or what was your?
We were actually in a bath together, yeah, and he sort of, in passing, no. We have been speaking to Nintendo at various times over the years. When we were making Overcooked, we'd emailed them about trying to come out on the Wii U originally. But at that time, they were sort of seeing the crossover between Wii U and Switch. And it was only after we'd actually released on PlayStation and Xbox, which was in August last year, that we finally were able to sort of make contact with them about releasing on the Switch and get hardware. So, yeah, that was kind of how it went with us, really.
Okay, so you just got in touch and they said, yeah, sure.
Yeah, obviously we're working with Team 17 as a publisher, so there was sort of, they have a relationship with them already because they'd already done some games on Wii U. And yeah, it wasn't like we just cold emailed them out of the blue and we're just like, hey, we've got this, do you want to put it on?
Similar story. Well, they have actually approached us at BitSummit because our game is local multiplayer, so they saw that and they were like, this is good for the Switch. And then we got in talks through that, which was interesting.
And is that something that they've kind of indicated that they're particularly looking for, like local multiplayer? Has that been something that have you got the sense that they're kind of chasing a particular type of game for Switch?
Not for us. We're making a single-player game, so I can't say that they're specifically looking for multiplayer games, but it would be good for the console, I think.
Our game is local multiplayer. I think the platform suits it very well. I don't know whether that's something they are pursuing on purpose, but I know that at the booth downstairs, a lot of those games are local multiplayer games. There's definitely an uptick in the number of local multiplayers on Switch versus previous generations. Yeah, sure.
Our game is also single player, and I just want to clarify that. Nintendo's been featuring it heavily on the Nindy Showcase and stuff like that. So I don't think it's multiplayer only. They've been treating us like royalty, basically. So, yeah.
And so has it been? And I think in terms of comparison to other platforms, has it been like a better, is the same, worse kind of experience in terms of working with them and getting featured?
For us, it's been much easier compared to 3DS and Wii U.
And have you tried do you have any experience on kind of Xbox or PlayStation or anything like that?
Yeah, we do everything. So it's up there with in the big league now. So that's good.
I think it's definitely a comparable experience to the other consoles. It's been useful to. So we're working in the Unity engine, and the Unity engine solves a lot of the porting problems for us. So it's been a fairly painless process to get to a point where the game at least is running. There's obviously a stage after you've got the game playable where you have to do things that are specific to the platform, which we're still going into, but certainly the startup process was quite quick.
Yeah. And has it just been in terms of Unity support and everything like that? You've just been able to sort of do a Switch version, and it's been pretty straightforward. There haven't been any kind of crazy hoops to jump through, or mad certification issues or anything.
We haven't gone through the cert yet, and we're hoping to release this year sometime. Yeah. But in terms of the sort of the setup process, it's well integrated into the Unity engine, so it takes away a lot of the sort of low-level problems you would usually have to deal with when you're porting to a platform if you were doing your own engine. So that's good for us.
Okay, and is that been the same with everybody?
Are we all Unity games or?
No, we're not.
You're not.
We have our own custom C++ engine that we use for all our games since 15 years back or something. So, and it's been a breeze developing for it.
Okay, so it's just been sort of similar enough in terms of the sort of platform.
I think we got our game up and running in like 2-3 days when we initially thought it was going to take about 2-3 weeks. So that's how quick it was for us, at least.
Wicked.
Yeah, well, we have no experience. This is our first game, and we did it quite easily, so I think that says a lot.
So again, you were just trying to hook up with Nintendo for to debut your game on.
Yeah. And it's just so easy to do.
Yeah, and are they kind of giving you the same kind of attention? I mean, obviously you're at the show, but are they giving you the same kind of attention as?
Yeah, I wouldn't say we get as much attention because we're brand new, but we get a lot of attention. It's more smaller and intimate with Nintendo, which seems to be really good.
Yeah. And they're kind of good at sort of answering your emails and being in touch. And
I would say so. Yeah.
And have you had? And I guess obviously haven't shipped yet, but is there kind of expectation that you won't have any hiccups with that kind of patching and kind of updates and stuff like that? Is that?
We haven't reached that point yet, so I can't say.
Yeah, the same here. Our game isn't out yet.
Yeah.
Okay. We're not out. So.
Okay. Fair enough. Do you think? I mean, obviously, you mentioned you're getting featured a lot. They're kind of giving you a lot of attention. I think the kind of concern, or something I was looking at, because obviously like the Wii U kind of had a very slow start for indie development, and it kind of picked up a lot towards the end, and now they're just like firing indie games out all the time. And it's gone a little bit iTunes maybe, like there's just so much stuff there.
So you mean that it's easier to get your game out on the platform, or?
Well, it's easier to get out, but it's just an insane amount of competition.
I don't know actually.
I mean, I think it's true of every platform now that there are so many indie developers that it is difficult to get word out about your game. But I don't think that's like a Nintendo Store problem as much as it is every store problem. Yeah.
There's just a lot of focus on that right now because it's a brand new console, so everyone's kind of looking at it, and the fact that they're announcing games every week, and a lot of them are kind of ports of games, say, that it just feels like there's way more there, where in actual fact, there's still leagues more on Xbox and PlayStation right now. It just feels like more because it's a brand new console and you're sort of hearing the news every day of something coming out. But I don't really see it as being like, oh gosh, this is the indies are going to stand no chance on Nintendo, whereas on PlayStation and Xbox they're going to be all right, if that makes sense. Yeah.
Fair enough. And have you found like there's a kind of receptive audience on Nintendo? Like has it been like kind of well received?
Yeah, well, I mean, as soon as they announced the Switch, we started getting messages from people just saying, hey, when are you going to bring Overcooked to Switch? And I'm sure it was the same for a lot of you guys that, as a new console, everyone's like, well, great, I want to play, games I've heard about or games that I'm enjoying. And so far, I mean, this is like the first time we've actually taken it out in public to show people, but so far people seem to be really, really enjoying the Switch as well as the game, which is great. Yeah.
Well, the reception has been great. Well, we were in the Nindies trailer, so I think Nintendo fans are very happy. They're very loud, which is a nice thing. And then also, as you said, showing your game on the Switch and it's new, everyone's excited and want to try it out. So I think the overall feel of Nintendo Switch today is very good. So it's nice.
Have you just found that the Nintendo fans are just a bit happier than Steam commenters? Yeah, and they also contact us about our older games because they want to see it on the Switch as well. So I think they want to get as many games as they can because there weren't as much on the Wii U. Stop me if I'm wrong, but I think there's going to be more indie games on the Switch. Yeah.
So I was just going to add that I think that it's a different experience when you're playing a game on Switch, particularly for like a multiplayer game, but for all games, when you see people playing it on the tube or on the train. And I think that's what's so great about the Switch. That's the unique thing, right? And I think that's what's getting people really excited at the minute, is because they are playing games in a different environment, and that somehow changes the experience. So I think that's kind of what has got people very excited at the moment. Particularly, I'm sure people notice people playing them on the tube. I've noticed that a lot just on the way here. And that's really encouraging. Yeah. Fantastic.
It suggests that community is going to be a big thing on Nintendo. We noticed from before we were announced as releasing the amount of social media messaging we were getting about releasing on it, and also the fact that you're taking this console out in the world, and the fact that the controllers disconnect and they can be easily local multiplayer. It's not so much, maybe it is unfair to say a focus on local multiplayer on Switch as much as a focus on maybe community and community building on the Switch. I think is probably something it's fair to say is happening.
And from a development point of view, do you see that as? I mean, obviously you have your games, which obviously you were kind of working on already. But do you have kind of visions for how you could like kind of use the technology of the Switch and kind of lean on it a bit in future, like different things you could do in future releases, that kind of thing?
I mean, for ourselves, the fact that you can separate the pads out is definitely a feature we've been using, and whether or not. To be honest, it's difficult so early in a console cycle to know what you're going to use and what you're not going to use. I would say one of the difficulties of releasing on the Switch versus the other consoles is the fact that it is the start of the console life cycle. It means that you don't have a massive library of games to look at to go like, oh, they're doing this with the technology, or they're doing this with the technology, and that you can use that for reference. And that will take time for us to fully explore what the console is capable of. Yeah, sure.
And I agree with that, but I think that the fact that there aren't, the eShop isn't crowded at the moment, and that means that you can experiment, and you can stand out if you make something different with a Switch at the moment. And I think that, like, compared to with published games for 3DS and Wii U, that like there are many games, but it's not as crowded as PS4 or Steam. Which means that if, like, from my perspective, if you make something brand new, something that really utilizes the unique features of the platform, you're bound to get some attention from that at least. Yeah. So I wouldn't say like publishing on Switch now this early is a bad thing. Yeah.
You kind of got that opportunity to define the.
Exactly. Like you can define what HD Rumble is, for instance. You have the opportunity to do that, and I think like One to Switch is a great example. And we're trying our best with it with Dig 2 as well to like just see what we can do. And our early experiments are really positive, and it's gonna be a lot of fun. Anything you want to add? No?
Okay. And do you think, given that everything you said suggests that it's kind of relatively easy to develop for Switch alongside everything else, do you think you could you'd be able to kind of like lead, like almost have Switch as a kind of lead platform with all the kind of cool features, and then when it comes to like putting it out on PlayStation or Xbox, it's like, well, we haven't got the quite that experience, but it's HD. Can you see Switch becoming a lead platform, basically?
Switch is our main platform for our most recent game, and it makes a lot of sense because it's debuting on the platform. And like, if everything runs in Switch, it will work in everything else as well.
Yeah, and I think, I can see it being a lead platform in that you can take away the features and you'd still have a good game on something else. So I think it would be fine. Yeah.
I mean, I'm not sure I've got more to add to that. I think it has there's every reason why you could use Switch as a lead platform as long as the community supports that.
Okay. So I've got a couple more questions. I'm going to throw it to the audience for more specific grilling. But in terms of if you had any advice to give to people who are looking at like targeting Switch, like what would be your kind of the advice you would give, or the things to definitely do or definitely not do based on your experience so far?
Advice, okay. I have to add a little bit of advice. well, one of the things you were saying was that to do something different, I think, is definitely always the thing with indie games in general, because there are now so many of us. You have to do something creative and different. And if you're releasing on Switch, it's to make use of the features of the platform and try and do something that is unique as an experience, because what people are looking for now is unique experiences.
I guess maybe just familiarizing yourself with the hardware in some ways is kind of important. I mean, one of the things we've noticed today, because we have, you can play the build with the Joy-Cons plugged into the actual device or disconnected as separate Joy-Cons, but obviously you're then rotating the pad, and there's lots of weird issues there that you have to worry about. So the top button is no longer X, and it then becomes A when you turn it on its side. So you're trying to describe to people how to use it, and that's really quite tricky. And that's something you have to consider when you're doing like UI and things as well, is that suddenly when the controller's on its side, all your UI is going to be wrong, essentially.
Your help text has to kind of detect the reorientation and updates accordingly.
I noticed that in the new Zelda game, they do something quite clever, which is that they highlight the position of the button on the D-pad, so they show all 4 buttons, and then they highlight one of them. So, I mean, it's not as big a problem for them, because you might not be playing it sideways, but it just seems really smart, because that's where it is in location. It doesn't have to tell you what it is. You don't have to remember if it's B or Y or anything like that. Yeah.
Okay. You have no advice.
I'd say it's so hard. Your advice was so great, but I think be open to creating new things, because I think that's one of the reasons why 3DS is still thriving, because there are so many original third-party games on it, and that's from our experience, it's been creating something specifically made for the platform, and then porting it to something else has been quite enjoyable. So that would be my general advice, I think.
I'm not sure if focusing on a certain platform is the best answer. Maybe just focus on making a good game first, and then see what happens. That would be my advice.
Okay. Anything to add on that?
I was thinking about giving a good answer, but you did a really good one. But as you said, being creative and looking at the platform and use what it offers, like putting up the Joy-Cons and local multiplayer, not only local multiplayer, but I think being creative with what you got, and also think about the possibilities of having it on other platforms, but focusing on what Switch and what is unique with Switch. Yeah, local.
It does kind of feel based on what you've said that if anybody here has a particularly kind of interesting idea, that it's probably worth starting on Switch and kind of making the most of that platform, rather than trying your luck on the PSN store or whatever. It seems like it's a good place. So as you say, there's less competition. So now is the time to kind of rush that thing out.
I would say that one game that I think would really fit on the Switch is Nidhogg. It's 2 people and just plug it up and just play. So, yeah.
It's fair to say it depends on the game as to whether or not it's more suitable for a Switch than it is for a PSN or for Xbox. But I think if you've got something and it feels suitable for the Switch, now is absolutely the time to do it, because now is the best time in the Switch's life cycle to get that kind of support and also the kind of placement to get as much of an audience as you can.
Becoming a classic.
To become a classic, yes.
This is your moment. Okay. So that's the end of my questions. Does anybody in the audience have something that they'd like to ask about making games on Switch? Anyone? Okay.
Oh, hi, Tag from 3DS Blast here. I heard that the Switch dev kit is a lot cheaper than the Wii U dev kit was. Is that a factor in why it's so easy to develop for the Switch?
I didn't purchase a Wii U dev kit, but I believe it's cheaper. Does anyone know? Yeah.
Wait, numbers what?
Well, you don't have to say the numbers, but I think it is fair to say it's cheaper, and that will make obviously a big impact, particularly for indies, because I think one of the big things with indie developers is the startup costs of making a game, and anything you can do to reduce the startup costs is obviously a huge help. it's been a big deal with the engines.
Yeah, my general, I don't know the numbers, but my general impression just from what people are saying at Image Inform is that it is cheaper and it's much easier to work with than any other Nintendo console. That's far.
Anyone else? Oh, sorry.
This is a more general question, but I'm a lecturer at College of Computing, where we teach computing, and at university. For students leaving college or university, have you got any advice about how to get into the industry and how to actually start coding, and what are the pitfalls?
Maybe you can take this one.
Well, I think 'cause like my team, me and my team, we wanted to make a game, and then somehow we just ended up being in a position where we had a game, which is kind of really weird. We kind of just kept at it. We did everything ourselves. Like one of our team members learned how to code. We did the art, the music, social media, business. We just did everything, and you just have to go for it and just do it, basically.
I mean, do you want?
No, go ahead.
Sort of general advice I'd give. I mean, it's different because me and Ollie both, when we left university, joined like a AAA studio. So we worked there for about 8 years. But in terms of like indie development, the advice I always try to give to people is to play test as much as possible. I don't know if you guys agree with that, but just as soon as you have something that you think is playable or enjoyable, to put it in front of people and get that feedback, because it's one thing to develop a game on your own in the dark for 2 years and then release it, and then just the heartache is going to be so much worse if people don't enjoy it at that point than it would be if you'd sent it out really early and got some of that feedback and were able to work on changes for it. So that's just some like general advice, I guess. Unless anyone's got anything.
Just start working on a game, start doing things and learn, and as you said, show it to people. Once you've worked on it for a month, when you have something playable, show it to someone and take it back, use the feedback and iterate on it, and just continue making games. And don't make a big game first, just make small ones, like 10 small ones, prototypes. Just learn one small thing with each new prototype. That's, yeah, just start working. And post on internet to gain followers, which is important for people. But the worst thing that can happen is that nobody plays your game, then make a new one and just continue. Yeah.
And actually, just as a sort of additional one to that, in terms of like Nintendo specifically, like obviously you can get Unity for free for the personal one and start messing around with it. In terms of actually contacting Nintendo directly to say, I would like to make a Switch game, I would like to buy a dev kit. What's the is that quite transparent? Is you just like go on their website and look for it, or is there a kind of resource to head?
I think right now it's not open right now, but I think that it should be. I think you can register. But I don't know if you can get a dev kit right now. I don't know how it is. But since they've updated their website, I think we're going to that direction. So it's going to be easier to becoming a Switch developer, I would think. But I think most of us knew someone somehow at Nintendo.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You had an uncle who worked at Nintendo. Any other questions from the crowd? Oh, right at the back.
Cheers. Hi. When you're developing your game, what sort of level of support do you get from Nintendo? Are they happy to leave you to it, or are they available any day, any time?
Well, they don't say much about the game itself, but since Unity is still in development for the Switch, we got that kind of technical support. That's what we got.
I'd say because it's quite early in the life cycle, there is a little bit of pioneering work almost. There's this feeling of not just devs communicating with each other, but also speaking with Unity and speaking with Nintendo. So it's still sort of tramping the ground, I guess, to try and to figure out exactly how everything needs to go at the moment. But we have pretty good open communication with them. It's not like, you know, we're on the phone to them every day or that we're fixing bugs then and there, but they're certainly receptive to hearing feedback from us.
Well, like from my perspective, it's great. They respond to emails, which is a good thing. Not all companies do, and they're happy to help us whenever we need them, basically.
Anyone else?
So I'd heard that when it comes to cartridges, they can be quite expensive to develop for, and that sometimes is driving up the cost of games. Is that something that you've encountered, and do you think it is a massive problem that for indie developers generally?
Yeah, like I've read about it online, but I don't know. Like we're focused on like making a digital version only at the moment. We might do physical, but I don't know, to be honest with you. I hope that it's not the case, but I don't know.
I think it is true that cartridges are going to be more expensive than discs. But I know that the cartridge prices depend on the size of the content. So for indie games, it's not going to make as much of a difference as it does to other titles. But I can't give you numbers, but I know that it just, for the nature of the manufacturing process, makes them more expensive.
Next question? Okay.
Hi. Somewhat of a follow-up on that. Is there any reason why you would do a physical copy over a digital one? It seems like digital would obviously be an easier way of doing it. Obviously, the cost is going to be a lot lower. What is the benefits of having it on disc?
I mean, I think that the audience for physical copies is different to the audience for digital copies. I think that's part of it. And there is also a collector's audience as well for physical copies. I think people like to have a collection of physical games. So it's nice to get a physical copy out. It's not essential to get a physical copy out for your survival as an indie company, but it's something that you could do if you have the capacity to do it as sort of an extra on top of it. It's a sort of nice thing to do.
It's also just like extra visibility, right, in different places. So the games are on sale in Tesco, in supermarkets, or in game stores, which are just, you know, there's different people going in there than are necessarily going on the online store. So I think it's another avenue, right, that you can get more people to look at the game. Yeah, so I think that's the main reason, really. But obviously, you have to consider the cost of that way more than you do with the digital release, because there's no cost of that, effectively.
Yeah, and one thing to consider when doing physical is that the return on each copy is much, much lower than a digital one. So, like, I think for most companies, especially indies, digital is the way to go. But if you have like a big enough community and a big enough demand, basically, it can bring a lot of revenue if you do it right. Yeah, we've done it, and it works for us.
We did the same certainly for physical copies on the other consoles. We released digitally first and then released as a physical release. I think there's more risk entailed with a physical release, so you want to know that you've got the audience support before you put money up front for the manufacturing.
So obviously Nintendo's known for having like really high standards of quality when it comes to the content of its game. And I was wondering what kind of input does Nintendo have when it comes to your own creative process, and what level of agency you get?
On the design process?
Well, like if they like limit you on, you know, what sort of things you can and can't include in the games that you put in.
Sorry, is this more of a content ratings kind of thing, or a design?
Yeah, but kind of like a
certainly I've never had a Nintendo try and modify the design of the game in any way. I don't know if anyone else has had any. So yeah, they've been pretty hands-off as far as our independence to create is going, which is good, because that's absolutely what you want with the platform. So yeah, so far no interference.
I mean, they'll have the they'll have pretty strict cert criteria, like all the consoles do, to make sure, you know, that there are as few bugs, I'm not going to say 0 bugs, but as few bugs as possible, and that the game is very, very stable. And historically, yeah, they have been very strict with that, which is good in my opinion, because, yeah, I don't like broken games.
Any other questions? Right there.
Hi, I'm an audio guy. I was just wondering how important audio is in your game, and do you have designated people for the audio, or do you do it yourselves on the indie budget?
We actually did the audio ourselves because, yeah, we were on a really, really shoestring budget when we made the game. So don't judge us too harshly on that. But it's something that, like, we're aware of how important it is, and it's something that we are definitely looking forward to being able to invest in a little more for future titles, I think it's fair to say. Yeah, that's it really for us.
Yeah. We have an in-house sound designer and part-time composer, and we hire outside musicians to compose the game soundtrack.
Yeah, I think I would say actually audio is more, to me, is more important than visuals in some ways. But and yeah, for us, we do it ourselves. We use like a 3DS or an iPhone, and we just do it. We'll do whatever, basically.
Got time for a couple more questions, if anyone has any. Well,
Hi. Do you see the Switch more as a mobile platform or a console?
What's beautiful about it is it's both. I think the main selling point of the Switch is so strong, and just by using it with Zelda during the past few weeks has, to me at least, proven that it's truly capable as a handheld and a home console. It works just as well on both, I'd say.
Yeah, I mean, I agree with that, and I think I would only add that it was. I was surprised by how well that worked, because on paper that sounded to me like it was going to be very difficult, is to make something that was actually portable and of the level of graphical fidelity you would need to run something like Zelda, and it does seem to actually perform as advertised, which is impressive.
Out of interest from you guys, how do you play your Switch more? Do you play it on TV or do you play it in handheld?
I play in handheld.
Yeah.
I don't like to sit by my TV, so no.
I'd say 50-50 on the go, in handheld, obviously, and at home, actually in tabletop mode, I think it's called. I use that, and on my TV, of course.
For me, during the day, it's handheld, and when I get home, it's TV.
Got time for one more question, if anyone has one? Anybody? Okay, then. All right. Well, thank you very much, then. Thank you very much for coming, and thanks again to our panel. Obviously, these guys are here. If you want to have any extra questions you'd like to bug them with in person, they are right here, and they will be supervising their games on this Nintendo Switch bit, which is just downstairs opposite. Thanks.